We know that Special Counsel Jack Smith had filed court documents calling your actions in the aftermath of the 2020 election, quote, a private criminal effort. Can you respond to that?
He's a deranged person. I call him deranged Jack Smith. He just lost the big documents case. That was the biggest of them all. They said the documents case, and they said that was the toughest of them all. Let me tell you, we just won it, and it was won strongly and completely. And it was a total victory in Florida. And he is a person who is trying, and he works for Kamala and he works for Joe. This was a weaponization of government, and that's why it was released.
So what is ahead here?
Wow. Well, he looked mad.
So I think what you're going to see is this is going to go from the court of law to the court of public opinion. And I would expect that the former president, as his attorneys have, he will try to argue that releasing this is some form of election interference. Again, this case is not expected to go to trial anytime soon. If former President Trump is reelected, this case is expected to be dismissed by his attorney general. So the idea of releasing a long narrative like this from prosecutors, highly unusual. And his lawyers have argued, as they really have in all of his criminal cases, that any effort to release additional evidence is an effort to interfere with the election. Now, look, there's no precedence for this. I mean, this is just such an extraordinary circumstance. But I think that's what you're going to see next. The former president is going to argue that allowing even a redacted version of this filing to be released to the public is going to potentially hurt him in the election, and that this is part of this larger conspiracy that he alleges by judges, by prosecutors to hurt his chances in November. So I would expect that after initially we look and find the new details, I think that this is absolutely going to be used again in the court of public opinion to once again try to frame the former president as a martyr or a victim of the justice system.
So, okay, so why would they just all of a sudden say, hey, well, we got some new evidence, you know, we're just going to put it on your ass at this point.
New evidence right before the trial.
Yeah, bro. But what happened
From
to the trial?
2020.
Is this the Georgia Atlanta trial?
No, this is January 6th.
January 6th.
They said,
no,
they said it's the case, the election case. That should be...
the DOJ files is what he was referencing that they won. They tried to get him for some files that he had in his house. Is that not what they're talking about? Like when he had the files at the Mar-a-Lago?
Yeah. But this is January 6th.
That's what he was talking about. Yeah, no, the Jack Smith guy is the one who said January 6th was a criminal, called him a criminal.
So, like, he's still fighting the case in Georgia.
Won this case. He won. No, okay.
He still got a RICO.
He got a bunch of cases, bro. He got to go.
Damn,
but what the point here is that they said that this was one of the biggest ones and the most evidence that they had, and they lost.
But so now they bringing up new evidence. They just said.
Yeah, but I mean, they're trying. I guess also they're trying to say that he's gonna come out and say that they shouldn't release any new evidence because he basically won the case, and that's gonna be hurting his campaign, basically. And I agree. Why put out information if he won the case?
Yeah, well,
any case is public information, so
but this is a different circumstance, though.
But it's still public information. Somebody
this might be weaponization to a political opponent.
Exactly,
because he won. Exactly. So if he lost, then I mean,
but like technically,
like if he was,
But technically, like if we going off of laws, you know.
Well, I guess, yeah.
All the cases, everybody is allowed to,
then they win. Then they win. That's what they want. I mean, either way, they were either going to try to convict him or frame him to make him look bad. They knew probably.
So what's bad about, like, you know, if Trump said he wasn't as bad as he said he wasn't, shit, nobody should care.
Because it might hurt, you know, because then people are just hearing about these cases. But when you can read it, it's different. But then he won. I don't know how that
So if he won, that's what I'm saying.
But at the end of the day, I wouldn't want it out either. I wouldn't, personally.
Yeah, I won't. But like, it's public record.
I guess. I guess.
Like, if you murder somebody, you go to court. That's why he's saying I don't want the case to be.
He's not running for president.
It's still the same thing.
Let's see if this actually got dismissed.
It's like you can't stop that. I feel like, in my opinion.
Wasn't there a situation like not long ago where like somebody on the left was convicted of something and they said that they were like using the Justice Department? I feel like something like that happened recently.
It's been happening,
and we talked about it.
You talking about Eric Adams?
Let's continue. Maybe
Eric Adams. That's what it was. There. Thank you, Eric Adams. Weren't they saying, Eric Adams is saying, and the people who are with him are saying, they weaponized the justice system against him.
That was in New York.
In New York. Okay, so could it be possible that they're doing this to Trump?
They did it to Trump. Trump got the same charges in New York.
Oh, this must be
What's the name? Letitia James is in New York. All them people that's trying to get Trump is all in New York.
Man, I don't like New York.
Okay, this might be a newer clip, out there. And this is an older clip. Because
that's where Diddy from.
They dismissed this in July.
That Diddy Waldo.
I mean, there's so many cases we can't keep up with it.
This got dismissed in July.
Yeah, that's what it say. I mean, when I looked up this, the case being dismissed, all of these.
See, I remember them though
from
the other
July.
day, not too long ago, saying they
Look,
something.
Judge dismisses classified documents against Donald Trump.
Okay, CNN case closed.
Yeah, they searched the Mar-a-Lago.
So why would they bring it up then? Case closed.
Because Tim
So that's the
Walls,
discussion right now.
Tim Walls didn't do good enough the other day, so they got to bring
So
some
in this
dirt.
case, so that
distraction.
contradicts what you were saying because you were saying like because it was public record that he was charged with these things at the time. But then once someone is the case dismissed, they're gone. You don't
You should be. You still,
look at the evidence. You don't release the evidence to the public after that.
You still do.
You know, because they
You
weren't
still-
convicted of the crime.
Yeah, we got
But
some
you
good
still,
clips to
you
get
gonna
into.
still
Let's
have
get
the
into it.
paperwork for it. It's public record still.
I stuck behind in Florida. I think both of you know this, or I've talked about this, because I was so outraged. I worked on the litigation, and then I got all the
This was the
stayed
like
behind
hanging Chad.
hanging chads.
Yeah,
I got
okay.
all the ballots. I helped release all the ballots through Freedom of Information, Florida Freedom of Information law, and the New York Times took them and counted them. If there had been a statewide recount in Florida, all the counties, Gore would have won. Under the terms of the partial recount, Bush would have won, according to the New York Times, counting these ballots, and they had to make judgments about the Chads. But that was never allowed to be finalized in the proper way because of Supreme Court intervention. It was so close, they took it and they stole it. And that was a much better court, a much more honest court than the one we have now.
My big story this
Wow. Okay.
The
That-
It
nutty
was so close,
professor.
they
God,
took
that
it
was-
and they stole it. And that was a much better court, a much more honest court than the one we have now.
He's all
My big
excited.
story this weekend was the New York Times' excellent reporting on John Roberts and how he's been putting the thumb on the scale for Donald Trump all past this term. So my hot take is this. If Harris is lucky enough to win the Electoral College by only one state, John Roberts and his Supreme Court will find a way to flip that state back into Trump and give Trump the victory. It will be a redo of 2000. So people in Harris's camp need to understand they need to win by more than one state. They need to win by 2, 3, 4 states to make their margin of victory so large that the Supreme Court can't take it away from them.
That's crazy.
There's a lot going on in that
I feel like
one.
they know they need to win by more than one state.
Yeah, I feel like
Because the Supreme Court
I
is
feel
going
like
to
that
steal
might
it.
be the only way to do this thing this time around, Scott.
I mean, for the record, Bush won Florida.
I would love to roll that recount back there.
I don't think so.
Like, hold on. Your shirt black, his shirt white. They doing it, bro.
Hold on, but ain't they just? Isn't that the same thing that?
They just did that to
hold on,
JD.
But wait, shut y'all ass up.
They just did that to JD.
You wish you
mean?
would. I wish.
So they questioned JD. They said, so you're saying that Donald Trump didn't lose the election in 2020?
And they screaming about some shit from 2000. How long ago was that?
That's
This
24
nigga was
years
born
ago.
in
Bro,
2000.
they act like
I don't even know what was going
the
on.
Democrats never question an election, and they try to make like, oh, the right always. I mean, they're overturning elections. And
That's what do they call it?
They can't
A threat to
lose.
democracy. That's
Facts.
a threat to democracy.
Nah, facts.
But letting a candidate skip the GOP is not a threat to democracy.
Facts. That's not even democracy. She wasn't elected. They just gave it to her.
I
Oh,
can't believe
yeah,
they
you
did
got
that.
it. There you go.
but that was basically what that whole case was about, though.
Yes.
Trying to
Nah,
see
facts.
if Trump had something to do with, January 6th.
And it didn't. But you know who did?
And they-
Nancy Pelosi.
So
and why the hell they quiet on that?
Yeah, her old ass. Put her old ass in jail.
Because she the ones that's the real reaper in the White House. She the
She's
one.
sitting in that circle like on Scandal. She one of the ones in that circle.
Every single fear-mongering tool or tactic that they use has been debunked. I haven't seen one that hasn't been debunked. Literally.
Yeah, bro.
And then they try to prop it up to the American people like it was such a problem. I can't believe they did that to JD on the stage, bro. And then they tried to make like that was all. That he did good the whole night until he couldn't admit that Trump lost the election.
But y'all can't admit that
Y'all done the same thing right here.
since 2000.
Your shirt is black and her shirt is white, buddy. That's what they trying to convince you.
My shirt is white. That's crazy.
That's literally what it is,
got a
bro.
white shirt.
That
There's
shit's crazy.
a lot of
bro.
times they do that with a lot of things.
I got a stainless white T-shirt.
I'm gonna take the
on,
tie
y'all.
stance here today. What is a woman?
This is criminal
They argue
evidence,
that.
and I'm gonna let you respond. But this is criminal evidence.
Hey, you
newly on.
notorious, bro.
I don't want to. This is criminal evidence, and I'm going to let you respond. But this is criminal evidence overthrow the election, and they cite some of this sound, which we're now going to, and the court process
based on
filing that's unsealed.
Yeah.
And you got out of prison. You can tell us about that if you choose to. Steve Bannon is in prison right now. You mentioned earlier, and yes, fact check. You both refused a lawful subpoena, and the court process
based on the constitutional.
Yes, and you have your reasons, but the court
principal's
process
position.
Yes, but the court process resulted in these prison sentences. That is, as you mentioned,
separate, released pending appeal, and you know that as well as I do.
Separate from the underlying coup case.
And
I want to play. Wait, I'm going to let you respond, but I want to play the Bannon podcast, which you've also worked on, is cited in this new filing. Some of this is unsealed, and it's cited as evidence that Donald Trump, through this plot, was trying to illegally overthrow the election. And they cite some of this sound, which we're now going to play.
The vice president's got a lot of power, and that's very important to recognize.
Are we to assume that this is going to be a climactic battle that's going to take place this week about the very question of the constitutionality of the Electoral Count Act of 1877?
Well, I think that a lot of that depends on the courage and the spine of the individuals involved.
Vice President Mike Pence?
Was he in?
I don't want
for the border. Yeah, that's what I thought.
This is criminal evidence, and I'm going to let you respond. But this is criminal evidence, newly unsealed, in the case against Donald Trump. You know how it works. If he loses the election, this federal trial will proceed. Your report is briefly mentioned on page 136 as an example of what they call deliberate and fraudulent efforts to lie about the election. So I will give you some time right now, having gone through your prison stint on the subpoena and looking at this filing. Don't you understand that much of this material has been disadvantaged to Donald Trump as a defendant and could be part of what gets him potentially in trouble? We'll see what the jury says if there's a trial.
There's a couple of things to say here. First of all, this is election interference, pure and simple. This drops 30 days out from Election Day.
Because of Trump's lawyers' delays.
When it never should have come before it.
Don't you think that the American people deserve to hear this?
I'll go to Peter and then to Sarah.
That's what I'm saying.
But not unlimited time. Yes,
this is simply election interference. What's interesting about this as an issue now, I did a little polling. This is interesting. Crosstabs from a Rasmussen poll show that MSNBC viewers see the two top issues as democracy threats at 46% and abortion at 28%. For Fox, it's immigration at 49%, inflation at 32%. And for the general election, this democracy threat is at 6%.
Okay.
Which is to say that I get it why you want to talk a lot about this. But the last thing I want to make a point of, the Electoral Act of 1887, Ari, was used in 2000 in the Gore-Bush thing by the Democrats. In the next one, by the Democrats. Kerry used it. Clinton used it. That's all that was going on.
Okay, that's
with Trump.
All right, and I'm going to give Sarah time. Sarah, go ahead.
So I think that's going to be the common argument from supporters of Trump and Republicans on the Hill probably is going to be that this is election interference. But my counter argument to that is, shouldn't the voters in the 2024 election know if one of the candidates on the ballot tried to overthrow the 2020 election? I think that they deserve to have these facts presented to them. It's a shame that this won't go to trial beforehand. I wish that there had been more time on the calendar. There's a lot of people you can blame for that, whether that's Merrick Garland dragging his feet or even maybe the Senate should have voted to convict Donald Trump. We wouldn't find ourselves in these positions.
And I want to show, Ambassador, I want to show something. I'm going to bring you in. I want to show you people remember you as a star impeachment witness. You got a subpoena.
That was much ado about nothing, Ari.
Well, you got it. I showed it. You said at the time it was a quid pro quo. You confirmed it there.
As I said to Peter a moment ago, I had a quid pro quo this morning. I went to Starbucks and I gave them my American Express card, and they gave me a cup of coffee.
Right, but a commercial, under law, a commercial transaction is different than a quid pro quo, which I think you know because you were at the center of that. And after January 6th, we saw what Ms. Matthews did. Let's listen to where you drew a line in the sand.
Completely in, even with all of the foibles that everyone has already identified, and I don't need to go through them again, until January 6th. It was a no for me after that.
A no for you after that. Why was it important for you to say no more Trump because of his January 6th conduct? And do you stand by that?
No, I don't stand by it. And I'll tell you why. I've now lived 4 years under the Biden-Harris policies. And I have to say that those policies are not only becoming an existential threat to our country's way of life, but to our allies as well.
So when you,
and it has to.
Ambassador, I'll let you finish, but this is so striking. You said it was a no for me after that, after January 6th.
I did.
And here we are right now.
I did.
And you're saying it's a yes for you.
It is a yes for me. It is an absolute yes for me. That is how badly
Don't question this, but don't question Kamala.
the Biden-Harris team have prosecuted their job.
But the whole point you seem to be making was that January 6th and that kind of attack on democracy is bigger than any policy.
I am seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
So I want to ask Sarah.
If you want to ask me what those are, I'm happy.
Well, I'm going to go Sarah in the back.
See you. I appreciate Kamala Harris why she flip-flopped on 16 things.
Seeing so many attacks on democracy that eclipse January 6th.
So I want to ask Sarah.
If you want to ask me what those are, I'm happy.
Well, I'm going to go Sarah in the back.
See you.
But this is, I appreciate
Kamala Harris why she flip-flopped on 16 things.
Look, I appreciate everyone being here. Sarah, I'm curious your reaction to someone who, like you, has participated, and I say that positively, Ambassador. You, as a government official, were asked to testify, and you did. And then you drew a line at Jan 6. And then, Sarah, we see this with certain people, and I say it respectfully, who say that, he's at the table with you, and then tell us years later, never mind. Can you explain that, and what's your response to that?
A couple things I want to hit real quick. First, Kamala Harris, I think we should give her grace that she can moderate her positions. If J.D. Vance can go from calling Trump America's Hitler to now being his running mate, I'm going to give her that grace that she can moderate her positions too. Two, the ambassador said that he's concerned about protecting our allies. Well, what about Ukraine? Donald Trump has basically said that we should give parts of Ukraine away to Putin. And on top of that, he has openly invited Putin to invade some of our NATO allies. So those are things that concern me about a second Trump term that have nothing to do with democracy.
Peter, I'm going to enforce time, and I'll give you time.
You can moderate the next debate.
I don't. By the way, I don't mute mics, Ambassador. But Sarah, let me reach that.
Yeah.
When you look at him and you see, and there are other people like him who served the government, we credit that, who participated and testified honestly, and then say no more after January 6th, and then they come back. It's almost like a whole wing of the party is J.D. Vance, and never Trump, then ends up meeting always Trump. How do you explain that, and what should voters make of that? To Sarah, and then you get a rebuttal.
I think the difference between us is that I'm willing to set policy aside in this election. I don't agree with Kamala Harris on most things, but at the end of the day, you know what we can agree on? That we respect the Constitution, that I believe she is someone who will uphold it. And Donald Trump has shown us that he won't. He is the first president in our nation's history to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. And so even J.D. Vance trying to have this revisionist history last night at the VP debate where he's trying to say that Trump peacefully transferred power over. Yeah, that was after 140 police officers were brutally beaten at the Capitol. And rioters were there inspired by these conspiracy theories that Trump spread, all because he couldn't accept the fact that he lost to someone he perceives as weak as Joe Biden. So yes, I don't want to put someone like that back in power in the Oval Office because I don't think he deserves to step foot anywhere near it.
This is stunning.
I promised the ambassador rebuttal.
Policy doesn't matter.
Thank you. I was about to say that. Policy matters greatly because policy translates into our way of life and the way our country operates. What I want to say is what Donald Trump did on January 6th was not an exemplary thing. And I already said he lost the election. He should have admitted he lost the election and moved on. And the best victory would have been to beat Joe Biden at the ballot box, now in this case Kamala Harris, in 2024. So you're not going to catch me in that group of Republicans who deny that a proper election took place, even though there were irregularities. I don't believe those votes would have added up to a change in the election. What I want to express is that I've now lived for 4 years under the Biden-Harris administration.
Thank you.
I lived in a bucolic city of Portland, Oregon, which has been destroyed by those policies, absolutely decimated. Businesses are suffering. My own business is suffering solely for political reasons. And it's all fixable, and they don't want to fix it.
If Trump loses...
Hey, Bo, them two right there on the left.
You know,
maybe y'all right. I don't know, but y'all
want to know what's more crazy to me?
They was cooking, and people are sick of this shit.
The tax on unrealized gains. You don't understand as an American, You're supposed to invest your money for it to grow.
Right,
So
right.
if you're investing in something and you're going to get taxed for something that you don't know how much is going to grow, how are you going to gain wealth in this country?
That's a great question. Also, I think that her rebuttal to all their points was, I don't really care about policy. I just don't think he should be in the White House.
That's what they always do.
What you mean you
Trump
don't care
bad,
about
Trump
policy?
good.
If you don't
But
care
Trump-
about
but Trump said
policy...
we were about to-
No, literally. If you are not basing your political opinion in policy,
shut
you
up.
should not be on a platform debating with people. Like, I'm just keeping it 100. Like, you're voting because you
Emotional.
literally just don't like someone, and
Yes.
that is just not a good
That's not
argument to
smart
stand
way.
on.
Yeah.
Like,
Not.
what if the other person that's not the one you don't like has policies that are not going to help us and could potentially put us in a hole in the future and make things harder for us in the future and our children to come in the future? How the hell can you stand on that argument? Oh, I just don't like him, but I'll vote for this person for that.
Well,
What?
the girls,
That's not logical.
Don't get mad at me, but we have seen multiple times on television that women says we don't care about policy. We want vibes. We have physically seen this
did see that.
multiple times
No matter
on the
what-
internet.
Hey, man,
So
no matter
why-
we got to get out to the ballot box.
No matter what, if Trump came out right now and said, I'll put Roe versus Wade back, I'll defund the police and I'll paint the White House black for you niggas. They still wouldn't vote for him.
Yeah. Let us know what y'all think, though, guys, in the comments. I mean, this was hilarious, guys.